She was sold beside her old father, until a cowboy took them both. The gavel struck like a coffin nail. Martha Colby pressed her palm against her father's burning forehead as the auctioneer's voice cut through the morning air like a rusty blade. "What am I bid for this pair?" "Strong girl, seasoned man, debts must be settled, folks." Her father's fever had broken him down to bone and ragged breath. 3 days without food. 2 weeks since the bank failed and took their name with it. Now Samuel Colby, once the most respected man in Cedar Falls, swayed against the courthouse steps while strangers weighed his worth in silver coins. "Daddy, stay with me," Martha whispered, but his eyes had gone glassy as creek water. The morning sun burned against the wooden platform where they stood, a stage built for justice but serving greed. Dust kicked up from the crowd's restless boots, coating her lips with a taste of shame. $5 for the girl alone, called a voice from the back. Laughter rippled to the gathered men, like wind through dead grass. Martha's spine straightened. She would not bend. Not here. Not for them. The auctioneer wiped sweat from his narrow face. "Come now, gentlemen. Look at those hands, built for work." And the old man's got knowledge in that head of his, fever or no fever. His grin showed tobacco-stained teeth. "Start the bidding proper." $10 for both," someone shouted. More laughter. Martha's throat closed tight. $10, less than the price of a good horse. Her father had once loaned men 10 times that amount with nothing but a handshake. Now his reputation lay buried under the weight of other men's greed and his own trusting heart. A woman in a faded blue dress stepped closer to the platform. Her face carried the hard lines of a life spent scrubbing floors and birthing babies for men who never said thank you. "Girl looks strong enough for kitchen work," she said, studying Martha like livestock. "But that old fool ain't worth spit in his condition." "He's sick, not broken," Martha snapped. The words came out sharper than she intended, drawing stares from the crowd. A few men nudged each other and grinned. Spirit in a woman could be profitable if a man knew how to break it proper. Her father's hand found hers, fingers thin as dried twigs. "Martha," he breathed, voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, child. Should have seen it coming. Should have protected you better." The auctioneer raised his gavel again. $15. Going once. 50. The voice came from the edge of the crowd, quiet but carrying weight like distant thunder. Heads turned. Murmurs rippled through the gathered people as a man stepped forward. Tall, lean as a winter wolf, with dust on his boots and calluses on his hands. His hat sat low over eyes the color of storm clouds. Martha stared at him. His clothes had seen hard travel. Leather vest worn smooth, gun belt sitting easy on his hips like it belonged there. But his face held no cruelty, no hunger. Just a tired sadness that seemed older than his years. The auctioneer's eyebrows shot up. $50 for both? Well, now, that's more like it. Anyone cared a bit higher? Silence stretched like a held breath. The stranger's hand rested near his gun, not threatening, just present. A reminder that some conversations ended with words, others with lead. 50 going once. The gavel hovered, going twice. "Wait!" A voice from the crowd. Martha's heart sank as Sheriff Daniels pushed through the people, his badge catching sunlight like a warning. "Stranger, you got a name? Don't recall seeing you around these parts." The tall man's gaze never left the auctioneer. "Name's Tanner. Jace Tanner. Money's good, Sheriff." Silver speaks louder than introductions. Daniel stepped closer, hand resting on his gun butt. "Silver's fine, but I like knowing who's buying what in my town. You planning to stay local, Mr. Tanner?" Passing through. Tanner pulled a leather pouch from his vest, coins chinking inside like distant church bells. "These folk need help. I got means to provide it." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. Something in Tanner's face made him hesitate, a hardness that suggested this conversation could turn bloody faster than prairie fire. After a long moment, Daniel stepped back. "Sold." The gavel fell with finality. Martha felt the world shift beneath her feet. Freedom, if the stranger's mercy proved real. or a different kind of prison if his intentions ran dark. Her father sagged against her shoulder, fever carrying him toward unconsciousness. Tanner approached the platform, spurs ringing soft against stone. Up close, she could see scars on his knuckles, a thin line along his jaw where someone's blade had kissed too close. But his eyes held no cruelty when they met hers. "Can you ride?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir." "Your father?" She looked down at Samuel Colby's pale face. "He needs rest. Medicine. Water." Tanner nodded once. "Got all three at my place." He counted out 50 silver dollars, each coin hitting the auctioneer's palm like a small verdict. "We leave now." As the crowd began to scatter, disappointed by the lack of bloodshed, Martha helped her father down from the platform. The taste of dust still coated her tongue, but something had changed in the morning air. Hope, maybe, or just the promise of a different kind of struggle. She caught Tanner's eye as he led them toward 3 horses tied at the hitching post. "Why?" she whispered. He paused, one boot in the stirrup. "Everyone deserves better than the auction block, miss. Some debts shouldn't be paid in flesh." But Martha heard something else beneath his words, a weight that suggested his own debts ran deeper than silver could cover. The horses moved like ghosts through morning mist, hooves muffled by soft earth still damp from yesterday's rain. Martha rode beside her father, watching his shoulders sway with each step of the gentle mare Tanner had chosen for him. Samuel's fever burned steady as a banked fire, but he stayed upright in the saddle through sheer will and Martha's whispered encouragement. Tanner rode ahead, silent as a grave. His back carried stories Martha couldn't read. Scars beneath his shirt, tension in his shoulders that spoke of too many nights sleeping with one eye open. The gun on his hip sat easy as an old friend, worn smooth by years of hard use. "Water," her father croaked, the first word he'd spoken since leaving town. Tanner pulled his horse to a stop without being asked. He dismounted smooth as flowing water and pulled a canteen from his saddlebag. The metal was dented but clean, silver catching what little sun broke through the clouds. "Drink slow," he said, offering it to Samuel. "Too much too fast will make the fever worse." Martha watched her father's hand shake as he lifted the canteen. 3 drops spilled down his chin before he got a proper swallow. The water was cool, clean, better than anything they'd tasted in weeks. "Thank you," Samuel whispered, but his eyes held questions he lacked strength to voice. They rode on through country that grew wilder with each mile. Cedar Falls fell behind them like a bad dream, replaced by rolling hills dotted with scrub oak and mesquite. The air tasted cleaner here, free from the stench of desperation that clung to the auction block like grave dirt. Martha found herself studying their rescuer. His hands on the reins showed calluses from rope work. His boots bore scars from barbed wire and thorns. This was a man who'd built things, tended animals, worked land with his own sweat. But something in his eyes suggested he'd torn down as much as he'd built. "Mr. Tanner," she said, her voice carrying across the space between their horses. "Why did you buy us?" He rode for a long moment before answering. "Saw you on that platform. Saw how you stood. Reminded me of someone. Someone you loved?" His jaw tightened. "Someone I failed." The words hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Martha waited for more, but Tanner had closed that door as quickly as he cracked it open. Still, she'd heard enough to know that mercy had a face, and sometimes it wore scars. Her father swayed dangerously in his saddle. Martha reached out to steady him, feeling the heat pouring off his skin like summer stones. "Daddy." Samuel Colby's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, clarity cut through the fever's haze. "Martha," he whispered, "this man, be careful. Good intentions can carry bad history." "What do you mean?" But the fever reclaimed him, pulling his consciousness back down into burning darkness. His head lolled forward, and Martha had to grip his belt to keep him upright. Tanner pulled his horse around, studying Samuel's condition with practiced eyes. "He won't make it much farther like this. There's a line shack 2 miles ahead. Used to belong to the Rockingham Ranch before they pulled up stakes." "Is it safe?" "Safe as anywhere out here." Tanner's gaze swept the horizon, checking for movement, for dust clouds that might mean trouble following their trail. We can rest there through the heat of the day. Let your father's fever break proper. The line shack appeared through a stand of cottonwoods like a mirage, made solid. Weathered wood. Tin roof gone rusty with age, but the walls looked sturdy and the door hung straight. Tanner dismounted and checked inside before helping Samuel down from his horse. "Clean enough," he said. "Got a good well out back, and there's still some firewood stacked under the eaves." Martha helped her father inside while Tanner tended the horses. The shack held the musty smell of long abandonment, but it was cool and dry. Samuel collapsed onto a rough bunk in the corner, his breathing shallow as bird wings. "He needs medicine," Martha said when Tanner returned with her saddlebags. "Got some willow bark in my gear. Make tea from it. Helps with fever." He pulled out a small cloth bundle and handed it to her. "Boil it good. Give him small sips every hour." The hoofbeats faded into nothing, just wind playing tricks with sound and shadow. Tanner's hand stayed near his gun for another hour before he finally relaxed, but Martha saw how his eyes kept drifting to the horizon like a man reading storm clouds. Her father's fever broke that evening as the sun painted the western sky blood red. Samuel Colby woke clear-eyed for the first time in days, though his body remained weak as winter grass. The willow bark tea had done its work, pulling the poison heat from his bones and leaving him hollowed but breathing. "Where are we?" he asked, voice rough as bark. "Safe," Martha said, spooning more tea between his cracked lips. "Mister." Tanner found a shelter. Samuel's gaze found their rescuer, who sat by the door cleaning his rifle with practiced motions. Tanner. The name carried weight, like Samuel had heard it whispered in darker company. You wouldn't be the same Tanner who worked the silver mines up in Colorado. The rifle cleaning stopped. Tanner's hands went still on the weapon, but he didn't look up. "Might be. Colorado's a big territory. Big enough for men to lose themselves. Or find themselves." Samuel struggled to sit up straighter. "I knew a Jace Tanner once. Good man. Honest man. Till the mine owners pushed too hard, and the workers pushed back." Now Tanner did look up, and Martha saw something dangerous flicker in his storm cloud eyes. That life died in a cave-in 3 years back, along with 16 other men who trusted the wrong people. The silence stretched tight as a bowstring. Martha felt the weight of unspoken history settling over the shack like dust after an explosion. Her father knew something that put new lines around his eyes and made his hands tremble with more than fever. "The mine owners said it was an accident," Samuel whispered. "Said the support beams just failed." "Support beams don't fail when they're cut." Tanner's voice held the flat tone of a man stating facts about weather. "Takes deliberate work to make a tunnel collapse clean and quick like that. Takes planning." Martha's breath caught. "They tried to kill you?" "Not tried. Did." Tanner set down his rifle and rolled up his left sleeve. A spider web of scars ran from wrist to elbow, white lines where metal and rock had carved their story into his flesh. "I was supposed to die with the rest. Instead, I dug my way out through 16 feet of rubble and 3 dead friends." Her father's face had gone gray as ash. The money that went missing from the company's safe wasn't missing, was justice. Tanner's eyes held no apology. Those men had families. Widows and children who deserved better than a company handshake and an empty grave. Martha understood then. The $50 that bought their freedom hadn't come from honest work or lucky cards. It came from a dead man's vengeance, stolen from the same kind of powerful men who'd put her and her father on the auction block. They reached Tanner's ranch on the 3rd day, when the sun hung low and painted the valley gold as fresh honey. Martha had expected something rough-built and temporary, the kind of shelter a running man throws together between one trouble and the next. Instead, she found careful work that spoke of permanence and hope. The house sat solid against a backdrop of red stone cliffs, built from local timber and river rock. A barn stood nearby, sturdy enough to weather hard winters. Corrals held a small herd of horses, their coats gleaming with good care. Even the vegetable garden showed attention. Neat rows of beans and corn pushing up through dark soil. You built all this yourself? Martha asked as Tanner helped her father down from his horse. Had helped the first year. Drifter named McKinnon stayed through the winter, earned his keep with carpentry skills. Tanner's voice carried the weight of memory. Good man. Pinkerton bullet caught him outside Dodge City 6 months back. The words hit Martha like cold water. Another grave marker in the trail of violence that followed their rescuer. She wondered how many others had paid the price for Jace Tanner's stolen justice. As if summoned by her thoughts, the sound of approaching horses drifted across the valley. Four riders crested the eastern ridge, silhouetted black against the dying sun. Even at distance, Martha could see the purposeful way they sat their saddles. Men with hard business to conduct. Tanner cursed under his breath and moved toward the house. Get inside. Both of you. Stay away from the windows. Who are they? Martha asked, though her heart already knew. Pinkertons. Been dodging them for 200 miles. Tanner pulled his rifle from its scabbard, checking the loads with practiced motions. They're good men doing bad work. Don't want to kill them if I can help it. The lead rider called out when they reached the yard's edge. Jace Tanner. This is Detective William Harper, Pinkerton National Detective Agency. We need to talk. Talk from there, Tanner replied, rifle steady on a water trough's edge. Words carried just fine across open ground. Harper rode closer, hands visible and empty. He was older than the others, with gray threading his beard and the careful movements of a man who'd survived too many dangerous conversations. Mr. Tanner, you know why we're here. 3 years is a long time to run. Not long enough. The mine company wants their money back. All of it. Harper's voice carried the weight of tired authority. Return what you took, and we can discuss terms. Tanner's laugh held no humor. Terms? Like the terms those 16 miners got when the tunnel came down? Like the terms their widows got when the company lawyers showed up with eviction papers? That's not my concern. Harper shifted in his saddle. I'm here about theft, not justice. Same thing, depending on where you stand. One of the younger Pinkertons spoke up, a lean man with hungry eyes and quick hands. We know about the girl and the old man, Tanner. Know you bought them in Cedar Falls with stolen money. Makes them accomplices now. Martha's blood went cold. Her father's hand found hers, squeezing tight with what little strength he'd recovered. Harper held up a warning hand to the younger man. Nobody's threatening anyone, Mr. Tanner. But facts are facts. That money belongs to the Consolidated Mining Company. That evening, after the Pinkertons had made camp by the creek, Martha found her father hunched over the kitchen table with papers spread before him like battle plans. Bank ledgers, correspondence, receipts, all bearing letterheads of companies she didn't recognize. These documents, Tanner said, studying the cramped handwriting. You're certain they're genuine? Samuel nodded, though the effort seemed to drain what little strength the night's rest had returned to him. Kept copies of everything, even after the bank failed. Call it banker's habit or an old man's insurance policy. Consolidated Mining didn't just cut those support beams, her father explained. They've done it before. 3 other mines, 6 other cave-ins. 47 men dead total, and every time the company collected insurance money, while the families got nothing. Harper knows? Tanner asked. Harper's signature is on half these investigation reports. Samuel's voice carried bitter satisfaction. He's been covering for Consolidated for 5 years. Taking money to make evidence disappear. Witnesses relocate. Official findings change from negligent homicide to accidental death. Dawn came red as spilled blood across the valley rim. The Pinkertons rode into the yard with morning sun at their backs, casting long shadows across the packed earth. Harper dismounted first, his hand resting casually on his gun butt. Time's up, Tanner, he called. What's your answer? Tanner stepped onto the porch, Martha and her father flanking him. Got a counter-proposal for you, Detective Harper. Might want to hear it before we discuss surrender. Harper's eyes narrowed. I'm listening. Samuel Colby here used to run the Cedar Falls Bank. Had business dealings with a lot of companies, including Consolidated Mining. Tanner's voice carried deadly calm. Amazing what kind of paperwork a careful banker keeps in his files. The younger Pinkerton, the one with hungry eyes, shifted restlessly in his saddle. What's he talking about, Harper? Harper's face had gone pale as winter snow. Nothing that concerns you, Davies. Old business, like the 47 miners who died in accidental cave-ins. Tanner pulled the papers from his vest, holding them up so all four men could see. Old business, like falsified investigation reports and insurance fraud. Old business, like Pinkerton detectives taking company money to bury evidence. Davies and the other two detectives exchanged glances. Martha could see doubt creeping into their faces, the kind of doubt that came when a man realized he might be wearing the wrong badge. That's a serious accusation, Harper said, but his voice had lost its authority. Serious enough to interest a federal judge. Samuel stepped forward, his banker's instincts reading the fear in Harper's eyes. But it doesn't have to come to that, detective. Men can make different choices when presented with new information. The standoff stretched like piano wire, tight enough to snap. Martha watched the four Pinkertons weigh their options. Duty against self-preservation, the law against the truth, corporate loyalty against personal survival. Finally, Davy spoke up. Harper, is what he's saying true? About the mine company. Harper's shoulders sagged like a man carrying too much weight for too long. Business is complicated, Davies. Sometimes good men have to make hard choices. Hard choices like covering up murder? The young detective's voice carried disgust. Jesus, Harper. I signed on to catch thieves, not protect killers. This is... Davies wheeled his horse around, spitting in the dust. Come on, boys. Let's go find some real criminals to chase. The other two detectives followed Davies without another word, leaving Harper alone in the yard with his shame and his secrets. The old detective stared at Tanner for a long moment, then nodded once, a gesture that might have been respect or simply recognition of defeat. You're a dead man walking, Tanner, he said as he mounted his horse. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually someone will come for you who can't be bought or reasoned with. Been dead since that tunnel came down, Tanner replied. Everything since then has been borrowed time. Harper rode after his men without looking back, leaving nothing but dust and the lingering smell of gunpowder that hadn't been fired. Martha watched him disappear over the ridge, then turned to study the man who'd bought her freedom with stolen silver. Scars covered his hands. Weariness lined his face, and somewhere in his eyes she saw the ghosts of 16 dead miners who would never see justice served. What happens now? She asked. Tanner looked across his valley, at the house he'd built, the horses he'd tended, the garden he'd planted with his own hands. Now we find out if borrowed time is enough to build something worth keeping. Her father coughed, a sound that reminded Martha how fragile their victory truly was. They'd won a battle, but the war between justice and law, between the powerful and the powerless, would continue long after their stories ended. Still, for the first time since the auction block, Martha felt something she'd almost forgotten. Not quite hope. Hope was too dangerous a luxury for people like them. But possibility, maybe, the chance that tomorrow might offer something better than mere survival. In the distance, a church bell tolled the hour, its bronze voice carrying across empty plains like a prayer for forgiveness. Whether that prayer would be answered remained to be seen, but for now, it was enough to listen and believe that some debts, once paid in full, might finally let the dead rest easy.